ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to our regular press conference.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Romney Smith at WTOC. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster is having yet another update right now. We want to take you right to it.
Thank you. Proverbs 6:6 through 8 says, "Go to the ant, consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief, officer, or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest." Let's pray. Gracious God, we humble ourselves to you and ask for your help. Help us to exercise sound judgment in our preparations for the storm. Help us to be wise in our decisions. Help draw us closer to each other and strengthen our bonds within our communities and as a state through our care for one another. Help us to use this event as a rallying point for unity. Help keep us safe, O Lord. Help us to honor and praise you even in the midst of the storm. Lastly, help us to remember that the same God that created the heavens and the earth is the same God that is with us and will see us through the storm. We ask all these things in your gracious name, Lord. South Carolina strong, South Carolina proud. Amen.
Amen. John Quagliariello, National Weather Service.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Well, there's some good news, and that's that Florence has weakened since yesterday and is now a Category 2 hurricane with winds of 105 miles an hour. However, don't think that just because it's weakened that the threat is over, and that's a really important fact here. It's still a large and dangerous hurricane. When you look at the size of the hurricane strength winds extend out to the west of the center 50 to 60 miles, and the tropical storm force winds extend west from the center 110 to 140 miles. So this is a very large hurricane. It's currently located about 175 miles east of Myrtle Beach. It is slowing down, now moving northwest about 10 miles an hour. We expect it to continue to slow down as it approaches the coast of southeast North Carolina today, making landfall likely somewhere in the Cape Fear-Wilmington area tonight into early Friday. Slight changes in the track and even in the intensity are still possible before landfall. It should weaken to a tropical storm while it slowly drifts into northeast South Carolina into Saturday. After that, it should slowly shift westward across South Carolina while weakening through Sunday night. Outer rain bands and tropical storm winds arrive across the Grand Strand late this afternoon and evening. There will be a prolonged period of damaging winds in this area, with tropical storm force winds expected for nearly 2 days and hurricane winds expected much of Friday and Friday evening. Elsewhere, damaging winds could spread inland across much of the state on Friday and persist through the weekend, resulting in downed trees and power outages. Tropical storm force wind gusts are expected into the Midlands and the Low Country. Significant rainfall of 15 to potentially over 20 inches is expected across the Grand Strand, 8 to 15 inches in the PD, and then 4 to 10 inches in the Charleston, Columbia areas, and even into parts of the upstate, with lesser amounts across to the south of there. The heavy rain potential will persist into Monday, and given these rainfall totals, flash flooding is likely. These rainfall amounts will also result in significant river flooding, especially in the PD Basin, through next week. Landslides could also occur in the South Carolina mountains. Storm surge is another concern, as values could reach as high as 4 to 6 feet above ground level in some locations north of the Santee River, and 2 to 4 feet above ground level in some locations from South Santee River to Edisto Beach. A threat of isolated tornadoes also exists as Florence shifts across the state. Please make sure not to underestimate this powerful hurricane, as much of the state will feel impacts of damaging winds and torrential rainfall for a couple of days, followed by potentially significant river flooding. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you very much. And if you noted from those remarks and figures, that what that means is the hurricane portion of the hurricane wind portion of the storm is almost 90 or 100 miles wide, and altogether the tropical wind winds and the hurricane winds are almost just under 400 miles wide. And as he said, it's going to be moving at great velocity as it comes here, but also will be moving across the ground at a slow rate, which means all this rain is going to be here for about 2 days, starting at one side of the state and going to the other. Something else that you may not have heard before is that we may have landslides in the upstate as a result of this, and that's because I think it's about 7 inches of rain may be expected in the upstate. So this is still a very, very dangerous storm, not only on the coast, but also in the interior of the state. And the very unusual part is going to last for about 2 days. So that means that we're going to have to be patient, because as we leave our homes, and we've now had over 421 people that we've counted, 421,000 that have actually evacuated, and we expect more, but there will be still people will be on the roads. But we would say when it comes time for those winds to get to Myrtle Beach, that'll be the first place they'll arrive, will be sometime this evening. That is at least 39 or 40 miles an hour. It's time to get off of that road. And as the storm moves in Charleston tonight, you should not be on the road. And when it gets down to Beaufort sometime tomorrow, you should not be on the road. So if you're going to leave, and you should leave, if you have not left these evacuation zones, you should leave now, because time is running out. And remember this, once these winds start blowing at that tropical storm rate, it will be virtually impossible for the rescuers to get in to rescue you. So they will be leaving just like the others, because it'll be highly dangerous to be there. So if you have not left, if you are in a place of danger, if you're in these zones, now is the time to go, because that window of opportunity is closing on you very quickly. And if you stay in those zones, when the bridges may be overrun, there may be debris on bridges, there'll be electrical lines will be down, possibly all over the state. There will be roads that'll be closed because of trees across the roads. Some of the roads will be washed out. It will be very difficult for people to get in to fix those things until the winds have gone, the rain has subsided, and even then it will take days to do it. And the first responders will be the first ones to go in. They'll have to be cutting trees and trying to put up the power lines. So for those people, whether you are in those areas or you are outside of those areas, you should plan to be patient, because you may not be leaving wherever you are for several days. It may take a week. It may take 2 or 3 days. We don't know. But we know that things will not be normal for many days. Highway 501 is now going in both directions as of noon today. I-26 will be going in both directions as of 6 o'clock p.m. today. But of course, we don't expect many people to be going into the area except first responders and those who are still setting up. As I mentioned, power will be out for a long time. Think about what you need for power. If you have a cell phone, it's not going to last the length of time that it's going to take to get through this storm without being repowered. So you need to have an extra battery or some place to go that has plenty of power. I mentioned the trees are going to be down on the roads. The power lines are going to be down on the roads. Don't drive your car into a standing water on a road. There may be no road underneath that standing water. There may be a power line down under that standing water. This is enormously dangerous. And also we may have flash floods. So if you see a barricade, do not go around the barricade. And again, don't try to take your well-known shortcut that usually works. Follow the signs, follow the evacuation signs. And again, it's getting late to evacuate. So if you are in one of these areas, you need to go on and get out now. Again, the power line crews, the law officers, and others will be the first to go back in. People will not be able to go back into their homes. We know everyone wants to get back to see what has happened and to take care of things, but that will not be possible until those areas have been cleared by the proper authorities. So we ask you, please obey their instructions, because they are giving them for your safety. And finally, I'll say this: we are well aware of the tendency of some people to want to get in early and loot. There are thieves all over the place. And you can be assured that South Carolina law enforcement authorities in all of its different aspects will be on high alert for such. We want to keep our people safe, keep their property secure. General Livingston.
Thank you, Governor. Governor and people of South Carolina, Team South Carolina, from the state perspective, we are set. We maybe have a few minor adjustments, but we're set, ready for this storm. We need the rest of Team South Carolina, the citizens of South Carolina, to be set. The governor has made some very cautious decisions to make sure that we don't gamble with people's lives, and we don't want you to gamble with your life. We're continuing to coordinate with our neighbors to the north. Both of our National Guards have about 3,000 people activated at this time, and we are able to exchange resources on the border. So as the storm comes across the border, we're prepared to deal with that. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, sir. Christy Hall, Department of Transportation. Yes,
Just like to give you a quick update on DOT and traffic operations in the state. Traffic has been relatively light this afternoon, and our traffic volumes have been dropping off steadily as the storm approaches. The reversals that have been put in place on I-26 and US 501 have functioned very well and operated as designed. I-26 in particular, through noon today, we moved an estimated 51,000 vehicles since the evacuation time. That includes up to 400 vehicles per hour on the reverse side. As well, for Tuesday, we had a peak of about 400 vehicles per hour Tuesday on I-26 reversal. And then yesterday, we had a peak of about 560 vehicles per hour using the reverse side on I-26. Without that reversal in place, we believe that we would have had a lot of congestion and slow-moving traffic on I-26 both Tuesday and Wednesday. With regards to US 501, through noon today, we've moved an estimated 33,000 vehicles out of the Myrtle Beach and PD area, including up to about 570 vehicles per hour both Tuesday and Wednesday. So both days we had about close to 600 vehicle per hour movements on that facility. As the governor mentioned, we estimate that we've moved about 21,000 evacuees out of the areas. We have about 3,000 DOT employees ready to respond to this event, including over 100 crews that have been specially assigned for debris removal operations once the storm passes. I'd like to encourage the public to check SCDOT's webpage as well as EMD's webpage for road closures as this event unfolds. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll point out again, there's the number. If you don't know whom to call that number. And if that's not the place to get the answer, you will be referred to the place to get the answer. Director Smith.
Thank you, Governor. Leroy Smith, Department of Public Safety. As the governor stated earlier, the reverted southbound lanes of US 501 are now open. The I-26 reverted lanes will close today at 6 p.m. And as I stated yesterday, if your vehicle is on the reverted side in front of the flush vehicles, you can continue the entire route up to the Columbia area. It's going to take us about 4 hours to break the I-26 reverted lane down, and again, we'll close that lane at 6 sometime. A few hours after that, we should have it totally completed. As I told you yesterday, we investigated 2 minor collisions on the reverted side of the I-26 route, one in Orangeburg County, one in Columbia. We also worked one minor collision, Aynor Police Department worked one minor collision on US 501 there in the town of Aynor. Our preparations are underway for our post-landfall response. And I would just like to give you some public safety tips, something that you've heard the governor mention already. I think it's important to reiterate those things just once more. In terms of post-landfall, roadway conditions will be very dangerous. And if you don't have a need to be on the roadway, we ask that you please stay off the roads. Again, the phrase, turn around, don't drown, could not be more important than now. So don't drive around the barricades, as you heard the governor state earlier. don't drive in standing water. We know why. It could be down power lines, debris, tree branches down on the roadway could be washed out. And something else, don't use or play in standing water for recreational purposes. There could be a lot of safety risks associated with that. That's all I have, Governor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Chief Keel, SLED.
Thank you, Governor. Mark Keel, SLED Chief. I just want to say, as you've heard, the evacuations and lane reversals are coming to an end. Those 450 state law enforcement personnel who have been working with the lane reversals and evacuations will be transitioned into security assignments. We have already received a number of calls from local jurisdictions that are impacted by this storm through evacuations, or those that are looking to have potential damage. They're asking for additional law enforcement assistance. We will be providing that law enforcement assistance to those agencies with all of our partners, state law enforcement partners and the National Guard. Again, as I've said each day, this is not the time for individuals to try and take advantage of those less fortunate, those who have had to evacuate from their homes or their businesses. Law enforcement will be out in force, and there will be a zero tolerance for criminal activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. DHEC, David Wilson. Thanks, sir.
Sir, thank you, Governor. DHEC continues to perform pre-storm assessments of dams across the state, focusing on those areas where we're expecting the highest amounts of rainfall. So far, we have assessed over 240 dams. For those that we need to keep closer attention on during the storm, we're partnering with the National Guard to do so. Again, at this time, I would still suggest that if you have a dam or an impoundment, before the weather gets bad this afternoon, if you can look at your primary spillway and emergency spillway and make sure they're clear and operational and free of debris. As it relates to our healthcare facility evacuations in the evacuation zone, most of those have been completed and the rest will be finishing up today. So far, we have successfully transported and evacuated over 2,200 patients. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Joan Meacham, Department of Social Services.
Thank you, Governor. I'd like to give an update on our shelter situation. As of 2 p.m., we had 61 total shelters open across the state. 49 of these were general population shelters and 12 were special medical needs shelters. We have one general population shelter that is at full capacity, and that is Goose Creek High School in Berkeley County. We have one special medical needs shelter that is at capacity, and that's Carolina Medical Center in Florence, South Carolina. Currently, there are 4,358 clients in shelters across the state, 79 of which are special medical needs. Our current total sheltering capacity is at 35,602. We are at 12% of that capacity. That leaves us with 31,324 spaces in shelters across the state at this time. As a reminder, if you are going to a shelter, check your SCEMD website for the live number of which is open or at capacity. Remember to bring blankets, pillows, and your comfort items, medicines if you have a chronic condition like high blood pressure or diabetes, important identification documents, and any special food items if you have small children or if you are on a restricted diet. Of course, service animals are allowed in shelters, and if you have a pet and it is not a pet-friendly shelter, the staff will assist you in locating a placement for your pet. We have 4 pet-friendly shelters that are now open: Blenheim Elementary and Middle School in Marlboro County, Canes Bay High School in Berkeley County, DePose Middle School in Dorchester County, and Lake Marion High School in Orangeburg County. And that concludes this update. Thank you.
Parks, Recreation, Tourism, Dwayne Parrish.
Thank you, Governor. For those evacuees who have not made arrangements for overnight accommodations, there are still rooms available throughout most of the state. If you have not made those arrangements, I would encourage you to go to a hotel's website, online travel agent sites, or short-term rental accommodation sites and check for availability. Thank you.
Emily Farr, Labor Licensing and Regulation.
Thank you, sir. State Fire continues to coordinate and prepare for the flooding that we anticipate with this storm. We now have 4 FEMA urban search and rescue teams along with 1 FEMA incident support team that is now working with our South Carolina resources as well as those that came from Tennessee and Louisiana. So we now have about 750 search rescue personnel ready to respond. Some of these teams are stationed here in Columbia, and others are already in places closer to the coast and areas where we anticipate flooding, ready to respond as soon as the winds die down and it is safe to do so. Also wanted to let the public know that we do have important messages related to this storm on our agency website, llr.sc.gov. Again, that's llr.sc.gov. We have a link right on the home page to some of these important messages from everything from our OSHA division for employer and worker safety messages, messages from our licensing boards and the State Fire Marshal's Office. Wanted to highlight one of those. After the storm, folks will be looking for property repairs. They want to make sure that when you do that, to look for people or business that you engage, make sure that they are properly licensed with our state. There's many insurance companies, agencies, and organizations that won't provide reimbursement assistance to property owners if you are using someone or a company that does not have a proper license in the state. You can find that important information along with how to look up licensees and who needs to be licensed at that website. We do also have an important message about how to remain fire safe during this storm. And so I'd like to ask our State Fire Marshal, Chief Jones, to come forward and give that information to the public.
Chief Jones.
Thank you.
Many areas of our state will likely experience extended periods without power as a result of this storm, and I want to offer a few safety tips to prevent injuries, deaths, and, of course, property loss as a result of those actions. First of all, avoid the use of candles for auxiliary lighting. It's best to use battery-powered flashlights or lanterns instead of candles or other open flames. And of course, I suspect that many people will be using generators. Make sure that you operate a generator in a well-ventilated location that's outdoors, that's away from doors and windows. Never operate a generator in an attached garage, even if the doors are open. And also make sure that you place generators so the exhaust fumes are pointed away from any doors or windows on your home. Make sure that you have carbon monoxide detectors and alarms in your home that will indicate if there's a carbon monoxide buildup before it's too late. And as a message to protect our linemen and power utility workers that will be restoring power in the area, if your generator is hooked to the main breaker box of your home, make sure that you switch off the main breaker to your home before starting the generator, because that power can backfeed back to the power lines and potentially injure the line workers that are working to restore your power. Make sure the appliances that you're operating off of that generator do not overload the generator's capacity, and make sure extension cords used are not exposed to water. Please make sure, and we actually had a fatality last year following Hurricane Irma as a result of this, make sure that you fuel your generator after it's cooled down and never run your generator inside your house. We actually had a fatality last year after Irma because of a generator being run inside the house. And then experience has taught us to avoid cooking-related hazards as a result of a hurricane and power loss. Make sure that the eye to your stove is turned off when the power goes off. We experienced, I remember back during Hugo, where the power went off while people were cooking, and then they forgot that the eye of the stove was left on. The power came back on when they weren't home or while they were sleeping, and it started a kitchen fire. So make sure you turn the eye of the stove off. Never use portable or fuel-burning appliances inside your home, and never burn charcoal grills inside your home. So again, just some safety messages to make sure that you stay safe and your property stays safe following power outages. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. What Chief Jones has pointed out is, and has been emphasized here before, is actually two phases to this, two separate operations. One is facing the challenges presented by the wind and the very large surge that we know we're going to have, and the rain and the water and all of that. But then once that is gone, then we have the recovery period where we have people without power, and there are just as many dangers there as there are when the storm and the hurricane are approaching. So we need to be very careful and be patient and follow the directions and advice. One of those is Libby Turner from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Libby? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, sir.
FEMA's here in support of a very strong and capable Team South Carolina as we plan and prepare for the potential impacts of Hurricane Florence. We have here an incident management assistance team that includes our Defense Coordinating Officer and his team and other federal agencies such as Health and Human Services, Department of Transportation, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Energy, and others, as we work together to prepare and plan for the potential aftermath. We also have 2 incident support bases where we have supplies, search and rescue teams, other commodities that might be needed after the storm. While we don't wish for impacts from this storm, we're honored to be here in support of the citizens of South Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Turner. I need to add, we've also heard this morning from Secretary of Transportation, Ms. Chow, from Ben Carson, we've heard from yesterday Secretary of Commerce, U.S. Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross. I mean, we are receiving plenty of attention, and we appreciate it very much from the federal administration. Kim Stinson, Emergency Management Division.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you, sir. Obviously, the SEOC's still fully operational here, and will be for certainly the near term. Our priorities here with the State Emergency Response Team have not changed. We're still going through evacuation and sheltering, and then we're follow-on operations, initial response, reentry, and initial damage assessment, and then also planning for flood operations. Right now, at the county level, there are 22 county emergency operations centers that are open, and their primary focus continues to be evacuation and sheltering. In terms of logistics, so far we've received 573 requests. 408 of those are either complete or in progress, and it ranges anywhere from ambulances to buses to generators. We've got 7 teams from 3 different states that are on the ground or will be on the ground this afternoon in incident management, swiftwater rescue, and air support. And we've got 7 others that are pending and due to arrive here in the near term, and that includes additional air support, personnel, and damage assessment. And right now there's a little over 200 individuals from other states that are here right now. We've got over 8,000 of tarps, blue tarps in our inventory right now for temporary roof repair. And we've got over 275,000 sandbags that are available if we need them. We've already issued over 250,000 sandbags out at the county level. The most likely response requests that we're going to get here following the arrival of tropical storm force winds is debris management, generators, and damage assessment. So we expect to get those as we have in the past, and we continue to plan for sustainment operations for both emergency operations centers and teams, because this is going to be a long operation, we fear. Governor already talked about the public information phone system, and that's at 1-866-246-0133, and that's operational. They've taken over 5,000 calls right now, primarily evacuation and sheltering questions. Several people have already mentioned it, but we've got our website, scemd.org. It still has lots of information. It's in disaster mode right now, so you can, as soon as you open it up, it's got all the important links that you need to stay connected. Also, our emergency manager application that's on your smartphone. We've got almost 100,000 downloads on that, but it has everything that the website has, and it allows you to put in your own personal information so that you can stay connected. And with that, sir, that completes my brief.
Thank you. Colonel Taylor, Alvin Taylor, Department of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Governor. As in yesterday, we realized that we're going to have a flood event. We're forecasting statewide heavy rainfall, so we're in the process of preparing not only our DNR officers but our state partners to respond to these communities where we have flooding conditions. One of the things that when you have a flooded area, a flooded subdivision, it's even more vulnerable to looting. So we want everyone to know that we're going to be there with our other state law enforcement partners to protect their property. If you're going to go boating while in the waterways, please be safe, be careful, travel at a slow speed. Just like on our highways, there'll be much debris in our waterways as you're in a boat, so it can be very hazardous. Our waterways during flood conditions, the waters can be very swift and rapid, which causes another safety concern for boaters, especially if you're a boater with not much boating experience in this type of water. And please don't go sightseeing. Once again, please don't go sightseeing. So many times when we have these flooded areas, boaters will put their boats in the water to go look. And that just causes all types of problems, especially for those homeowners that may have water in their home or almost in their homes by boat wakes that will put water in their homes and cause much more damage. We still anticipate our area of top priority to be the PD River Basin. Once again, the PD River Basin is our priority area for now, simply because they will be receiving water not only from South Carolina rainfall, but also North Carolina rainfall, all in that one river basin. We will continue to monitor other river basins. We are modeling now. We have some good ideas of areas that we need to be paying attention to, but once it starts raining, we'll have real-time modeling. We'll be able to be ahead of the flood waters and anticipate having all of our resources in place. So once again, be safe, be careful if you're on the water. Our waterways during flood conditions can be hazardous just like our roadways. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Colonel. Director Jerry Adger, Probation, Parole, and Pardon.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Anytime that you have a state of emergency in South Carolina like we have today, I just want you to know that all of the state law enforcement agencies, SLED, Department of Natural Resources, Department of Public Safety, as well as Probation, Parole, and Pardon Services, we come together and we work as one. You heard that the lane reverse will be completed today. That lead was by DPS. We worked with them on that. We will now transition to our post-storm role, and that means that we will take the lead from SLED to work as one to provide. Our mission is the same, and that's to provide, to protect, rather, all of the homes where there has been evacuation, as well as save as many lives as we possibly can. This is not our first time doing this. The law enforcement agencies here are very experienced at this, and we look forward to carrying out this mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Colonel Kevin Suedo, Department of Motor Vehicles.
Thank you, Governor. Department of Motor Vehicles' number one priority is to reestablish all the branch officers as soon as we can get safely back into them. For those that were not able to go ahead and safely open with power, we have two mobile capabilities. We use our CARES vehicle and our Shark vehicles to go ahead and augment those services. At an appropriate time, we will take those resources and get them out to the insurance claim sites so that we have capability to get citizens their driver's licenses, ID cards, and titles for appropriate claims. Shifting gears, though, it's an opportunity to talk about the South Carolina Disaster Recovery Office and where the state has a world-class response element. I want to talk to everybody about the requirement to get out there and recover. There are not abundant office resources to get out there and recover each of the homes that are going to be impacted by this flood. And as a result, the priority will go through the South Carolina Disaster Recovery Office to the most vulnerable people in the state, primarily those individuals that are bottom third of poor, they are disabled, and they're age dependent. That means that if you are able-bodied, you are going to be responsible particularly for the initial recovery that comes from your home. That means being prepared for the recovery itself. That means going out and buying things like mops, buckets, Clorox, gloves, and contractor trash bags so that you can go ahead and get rid of the trash and the water as fast as humanly possible so that you can mitigate the impacts of things like mold and mildew that will take over a home if you're not careful. The last thing that we use is a lesson learned that I'll throw out this time. A lot of you are going to be exposed to a lot of time outside at this point in time, and it is mosquito season, and this is the time to go out pre-storm and buy the bug spray so that you're properly protected. They're going to be out there like they have been each of the prior storms, and we want you to go out and start buying that stuff so you can protect yourself now. Sir, subject to your questions.
Thank you very much. And in that vein, we've also been in contact with Secretary Linda McMahon of the Small Business Administration, and they are ready to provide assistance in recovery as well. Director Nanette Edwards, Office of Regulatory Staff.
Thank you, Governor. Well, as been stated several times earlier in this briefing and addressed by the Governor, we are anticipating that with the current projections of this storm, we could have extended power outages. The reason for that is the crews cannot go out and begin restoration efforts until it is safe to do so. And because we now understand that the winds can be 30 miles per hour and greater for a sustained period of time, the utility crews cannot go out until it is safe to do so. So, for example, if you were to lose power on Thursday, it could be several days before your power could be restored. And along those lines, if you choose to remain in place, please make sure that you are prepared for that extended power outage. Make sure that you have batteries. If you rely on a cell phone, make sure that you have your extra battery charged. Take those precautions. We urge you to do so. The Office of Regulatory Staff is also continuing to work with our fuel partners to make sure that there are adequate fuel supplies for any continued evacuation. Thank you.
And we've also heard from Duke, SCE&G, and Santee Cooper, and they are making the same plans that everyone else is to address these problems and the fixing that will take place after the storm leaves.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Can I get maybe Colonel Taylor to address more specifics on concerns for river flooding, when and where?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we know from past experience and from the models we are currently running that the highest area of vulnerability will be the PD Basin. There's no question about that. They are positioned and projected to have the greatest amount of rainfall over the shortest period of time. We have many small rivers that feed into that basin, both the Little PD and Lumber River. Take water out of North Carolina and it comes down and exits into the PD River. And we also have the Waccamaw River, which receives water from North Carolina as well, which at the end of that river, again, is the Great PD. So the Great PD takes a lot of water from a lot of different rivers along that basin. So we know that it is the most vulnerable. It is our top priority. We know we're going to have much rain in North Carolina, and we know we're going to have much rain along that PD area of our state, the highest projected area. So that's our top priority. We'll move down to the Catawba River Basin, anticipating the area that may have the second largest amount of rain volume, and we're modeling that, and we'll closely monitor it as well. Those are our top two priorities presently, but we will continue to look at the Edisto Basin around Givens and the lower part of the state and our other river basins. We get real-time information when it starts raining. We can plan, and we're planning. We know where we think the highest priority should be. But once it starts raining, then we get real-time information, and we can react to that in a hurry, you know, because we'll be monitoring it.
Any outlook for Midlands River areas like the Congaree?
Well, we'll be looking at the Congaree. As you also know, you've probably seen that SCE&G is spilling money now, anticipating being able to hold a greater capacity of water from rain. And we've received some calls just today from residents that saw the Congaree and also the Great PD come up overnight. And they said, oh no, why is the river rising? Because it hasn't started raining yet. Is it raining upstream? Well, what that is preparation to be able to accept water. Our utilities, have learned from the past as well, and they spill water ahead of time, which may have caused a river downstream to go up temporarily, but that water will be flushed and the river will go back down, and then the whole system can take and adequately, as best possible, take care of that water that comes in from rain.
So too early to tell what Midlands areas will
No,
expect.
we are prepared, we're looking, we're modeling, but at the end of the day, when it starts raining, much is going to depend on how much rain falls in one particular area. You know, most of these storms, rain falls in bands around these tropical storms, so one area may have 15 inches of rain, and 20 miles down the road you may have 5. So a lot's going to depend on how much rain falls where, and we'll be monitoring that on a regular basis to try to model and be prepared to react to what happens.
But we do know it'll likely be raining for 2 days, which is longer than usual.
Yes, sir, Governor. We know this is a rain event. I mean, we still have a storm that hasn't gotten here yet, but one thing we do know that this is going to be a rain event for South Carolina, a great rain event for South Carolina. So we're monitoring that now, making plans, have personnel in position, and whether you say you're fortunate or unfortunate, we've done this before. On one side, we're fortunate because we've had plenty of real-time training in response to responding to these type of events in the past. Unfortunate because it's a tragic event. But,
how might this compare to the fire hose that came at us with Hurricane Joaquin back in 2015?
Well, when Joaquin came at us in 2015, I would say that we weren't prepared. We were not prepared for the amount of rain that fell. Much of the rain prognosis at that time, we weren't looking at the amount of rain that fell. It wasn't forecast. And when Joaquin set up over us for a period of time and it rained, it rained. So I think now, although some situations may be similar, I think now we're more prepared to monitor, to react, to forecast than maybe we were during Joaquin.
And in addition, we have technologies now.
All right, we've just been listening in to South Carolina state officials giving a recap on what's been going on with the hurricane and the state's preparation level. Right now, they're saying the state of South Carolina is ready for Hurricane Florence, and that right now they have backup from the federal government. In fact, FEMA Urban Search and Rescue has about 750 people stationed around South Carolina, most of their focus toward the coastline because that is what is expected to get the most damage. Now, I want to point out the biggest question, a lot of phone calls coming into WTOC continuing to ask, why isn't Beaufort and Jasper in the evacuation area? Let me show you a map I have on my iPad right now. This is from the National Weather Service. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you see Beaufort, you see Hampton, but you see the colors on the right-hand side. Everything in the red area, Georgetown, Horry County, that's going to have a hurricane warning. Everything in hot pink, Charleston, Berkeley, Columbia. That is the hurricane watch area. And everything that's salmon colored, Sumter, Florence, Chirac, Williamsburg, that is an area where there's a tropical storm watch. So when we come a little bit further south, when we look at Hampton, when we look at Beaufort, those areas are not expected at this point in time to be under a hurricane warning, hurricane watch, or tropical storm watch as it was predicted yesterday. Will you get rain? Yes, but this is the reason state leaders said they are not mandating an evacuation. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more. And for those of you just tuning in, either on air or on any of our social media or over-the-top platforms, we want to let you know there is still no evacuation for Jasper or Beaufort. It was a little confusing because the governor said leave early if you can, but I want to reiterate, those areas are not under a mandatory evacuation. A lot of you are concerned. You want to go to work, but you don't want to go to work, but you can't unless it's a mandatory evacuation, and we don't have one right now. You're concerned. We know we're going to get wind damage. We know we're going to get rain, but that is the reason why there is no mandatory evacuation at this point in time. Right now, for those of you watching on TV, we're going to turn it back over to your regularly scheduled programming. For those of you who are joining us on any of our social media networks or over-the-top platforms, we will continue a digital newscast in just a moment. All right, so for those of you who are still with me, I want to thank you very much for depending on WTOC for your Hurricane Florence coverage. Right now, you might be watching on our website, WTOC.com, our app, Amazon Fire, Roku, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Again, right now, we continue to focus on South Carolina. We just heard from Governor Henry McMaster and several state leaders specifically discussing statewide preparations for the storm. Two things he said right now: the state is ready for the storm, and that FEMA Urban Search and Rescue has about 750 people stationed around the state. Most of them happen to be by the coastal side. I want to put up a map one more time that I was just talking about, because a lot of people on Facebook saying, why aren't we being evacuated? This is why there is no mandatory evacuation. This is coming from the National Weather Service. This is what they sent state leaders. Everything in the red is a hurricane warning. Everything in the hot pink, hurricane watch area. Everything in the salmon colored, Sumter and Florence, tropical storm watch. So as you can see, the Beaufort area, the Jasper County area is not in any of those colored areas. And this is why the National Weather Service says those areas don't need to evacuate. However, you and I both know, unless your job says you're under mandatory evacuation, then you can leave without any penalty. However, we hear your frustrations because we know that we're going to get a lot of wind. We know we're expecting a lot of rain as well. We will be impacted, but this is the explanation that state leaders are depending on, and that's why those areas are not under an evacuation. We hear your frustrations. We know it's very annoying and that you're very concerned and want to evacuate. We hear you. And for that reason, for those of you with a pen and paper, I want to give you a number to take down. It's the statewide hotline, 1-866-246-0133. I have it up on the screen now. I want to say it again. Get yourself, screenshot it if you can, if you don't have a pen and paper. This is where you can call 1-866-246-0133. This is a statewide South Carolina public information phone system for when you have some questions. Now, I want to get to a lot of other news that we're covering about Hurricane Florence. So, of course, we just started with news out of South Carolina. I want to continue that mode. Jasper County Emergency Services urging people to leave. However, again, keep in mind, confusing messaging, right? They're saying you should leave, but you are not under a mandatory evacuation. So for those of you who are confused and needing to call your boss, I would call them immediately. Now, to find your evacuation zone, if you choose to leave, we have a link on our website, WTOC.com. Click that link now, and then it takes you to the State Emergency Management Division page. If you scroll down, you're going to find an interactive map. If you click on that map, scroll around, and you can even type in your physical address. That will give you your evacuation zone. But a reminder, the officials are saying if you can, leave. However, it is not mandatory at this time. Also, just a reminder one more time for those of you still watching, the South Carolina emergency phone number, statewide. Let me give it to you again. Get ready to screenshot on your phone or get ready to write it down if you're at home. 1-866-246-0133. We also have that number on our website. Thank you so much to people putting it online, Destiny Speaks and Matt Lesser. I appreciate you writing that number down in the comment section so everyone else can get it. All right, I want to talk about school closures for a moment. Let me get that up on the iPad because we are also receiving a lot of phone calls about that. I'm not going to run through every single school that is closed right now because there are so many. And of course, my computer doesn't want to work right now to show me all the schools. Okay, give me 1 second. Thank you for dealing with me. I want to make sure that I'm accurate with giving you all the school closures right now. When it comes to public schools right now, 4 big counties that I want to focus on that are saying they are closed. Those counties are Jasper, Hampton, Beaufort, and Savannah-Chatham school systems. Those public school systems will be closed tomorrow. So here's the other thing. On the list that we have online, you just see a screenshot right now, but it actually goes a lot further. I'm scrolling very slowly, and you see the number of schools that are on this list. This is what we have right now. We have added private schools and child care facilities. Again, some are just changing hours. Some are completely closing tomorrow. You need to look specifically for your school, your child's school, and get that information. And as we receive more information at WTOC, we will, of course, continue to update this story. And the schools are being very good about being proactive and letting us know. That way we can communicate it directly to you. So again, the 4 big school systems, public school systems that are closed tomorrow: Jasper, Hampton, Beaufort, and Savannah Chatham school systems all closed tomorrow. And for a more comprehensive list of schools and child care facilities that are closed or have altered hours, you can visit this story on our website, WTOC.com. I also want to let you know something that really made me smile, of course, when we talk about Hurricane Florence. Not too much to make us smile, but the Cajun Navy is in town. So we saw them certainly help out with Hurricane Harvey down in Texas. If you don't know who they are, the Cajun Navy is a group of thousands, and they rescued thousands from floodwaters in Louisiana in 2016 and in Texas after Harvey. Right now, they're taking donations for storm victims in North and South Carolina. A few of the items they're looking for: non-perishable food, water, can openers, flashlights, and batteries. There are hundreds of boats that they have brought in from Louisiana just to help out people in North and South Carolina, and we certainly appreciate it. All right, guys, I urge you to go to our website, WTOC.com. We have so much information on there. Matter of fact, if you go to the homepage, WTOC.com, and hover over weather, you can actually see a drop down. And the very first thing on there is our Hurricane Center. We also have a direct link on there because, again, we know a lot is going on. There is so much information there, I can't begin to explain it all. But if you want access to the most recent updates, if you want radar, if you want hour-by-hour forecasts, if you want school closures, if you want emergency numbers, they are all on WTOC.com. I know some of you are saying it looks fine outside right now. It does. I completely agree with you. But that will be changing. One other thing, keep in mind, it's time to download the WTOC News app and Weather app. They're both free for iPhone or Android. Make sure your cell phone charger is charged for when power goes out. If you get that, though, that's how you can stay in direct connection with us. We will continue to be loaded. We have a staff plan. We are here 24/7. Not me per se. We're on 12-hour shifts, but we are here to ride out the storm with you. Make sure you have all of the information. We're expecting a lot of rain. We want to let you guys know that we're here for you to give you every resource we have at our disposal. And we also want you to reach out for each other and take care of each other. All right, so I have a lot of comments on here. Oh, let's see if I can answer any really quickly. Some are very detailed. Again, for those of you who want to know your evacuation zone, you can always go to our website for that information. Some people saying thank you about the information. We certainly appreciate that. Belinda Wilson, thanks for the updates, Romney. We're doing the best we can to keep you guys updated. Lots of information going on. Again, WTOC.com, the best place to get all of that Hurricane Florence information. And our team of meteorologists working very hard to keep you updated as well. The news is on at 4 o'clock, and then we will keep it rolling 5:30, and 6 at the CBS affiliate in Savannah, Georgia. We're going to dip back into the press conference from Governor Henry McMaster in South Carolina. I'll see you later.
Are we on the same?
As far as the estimates on the evacuating people is that we originally had the million figure because it was going to be a full coastal evacuation involving the entire coast. But because we are not including Beaufort, Colleton, and Jasper right now, it's probably closer to 750,000 people that are in those evacuation zones that should evacuate.
Just getting back to my Red Cross question, you know, these people were asked to evacuate their homes, and then they get to the Red Cross, and there's no place for them to sleep. Would you say that this is acceptable?
Well, there is a place for them to sleep. If they're in a shelter, there's a place for them to sleep. Well, there are mats on the floors, and we're getting the cots there as quickly as we can. From the very beginning, we've been urging people, if they want to go to a shelter, particularly early, which many of them have done, is to take with them some bedding of some kind to make it more comfortable until the cots arrive. But I assure you that the plan is being implemented and perfected to get those cots that have not already been delivered, to get them delivered to be there for the people. And we don't want to have extra cots in one place and not enough in the other. So it's a precision contest to get it to the right place.
Any more information on the schools? Any more
Schools are
closures?
same as has been. Nothing's changed. Yes, sir.
I have a question for FEMA, if she's still around.
She is. Ms. Turner?
Yes, sir. So the Navy says that they have 2 ships south of here ready for us if we need it, if FEMA specifically asks for the help. Does there need to be a specific amount of destruction to occur for y'all to do that, or what's the likelihood?
No, we don't base our assistance based on the amount of destruction. It's actually a kind of a reverse process of that. So whatever occurs, whatever the impacts are, that then create needs, we base our assistance on those needs. So if the locals and the state need assistance in meeting those needs, then they come to us and request it. We can look at contracting or within our own resources, other federal agencies, a lot of times voluntary organizations. They're first and last on the ground helping people. But if all of those assets are not available or not enough, then we can reach to our partners at the Department of Defense. And so these ships are standing by, ready to assist if needed for any of the states that may be impacted by the disaster.
Governor, City of Columbia Canal, are you guys working to secure that, given what happened in 2015? Can you take me through that?
That would be a question for the city and Mr. Benjamin, the mayor. I know there's $169 million, I think, that has not arrived yet to work on that canal, but it is being pursued vigorously, I assure you. Sure. And the lady reminded me of one other thing is let's don't forget the impact of volunteers. There are more volunteers helping with this effort than there are people in the various governments. We've got and that includes the Red Cross and Harvest Hope and the Salvation Army, all these others, and many volunteer organizations as well as individuals who are delivering food and bedding and those other things that are making this entire effort work. Yes,
sir. I could talk about that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we've been in contact with city officials, and they're taking a look at the weather predictions and the flooding predictions, and they've got a plan if they have to further draw down the canal. They've already drawn it down some, but they can draw it down. They've got equipment and I guess riprap and that sort of thing that's available, and we're in contact with them if something happens, and that's certainly on everybody's radar.
We've actually made coordination through the military.
Step up.
We've actually made coordination through the military side too. So, yes, that was one of the great concerns 5 days ago.
As you can tell, this plan we have is comprehensive. Are there any more questions?
Governor, the coast has been on guard for several days now. You obviously ordered the evacuation along the coast several days ago. But, there's been a tropical storm watch issued as far east as Sumter at this point. I think it's the first time the Columbia office has been issuing tropical storm watches from inland. For residents in the inland who may think that they are out of harm's way because they're 100 miles away from the coast, what's your message to them about what they should be watching?
Well, the most recent part of that message started about 30 minutes ago when we started this press conference, and it has been in every one that we've had so far, and probably in most of the weather reports, and that is that the unpredictability of this storm has been demonstrated so far. The strength of this storm and the hurricane has been demonstrated as we see now. This is, as we've said, this is a different kind of hurricane. This is not one that's going to hit the coast and pass through quickly. This is one that's going to hit the coast and stay, maybe for 2 days. And it's going to be staying right over South Carolina, moving from Myrtle Beach and that part of North Carolina on across to where we even expecting maybe 7 inches of rain up in Caesar's Head and around there, around the North Carolina line there. I don't know that we've had anything like that in anyone's memory, and that could even lead to mudslides in that area. So there's going to be plenty of rain. There's going to be a lot of it, and we need to be prepared, and for, of course, the flooding that results from that kind of rain. And as been mentioned, we have the rain that is falling in North Carolina that's very heavy, that will be coming down through South Carolina, into the PD especially, some into the Catawba Basin, which runs through the center of the state. But we're going to have rain all over the state.
Thank you.
From one side to the other for possibly 2 days.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.